became a real sophisticated catwalking glamour puss from the unlikely stable of a small company based in Southampton that had specialised in seaplanes.
This company was Supermarine, who had made their name building the Schneider Trophy race planes in the 20s and early 30s. This was a straight test of speed, and Supermarine had won the competition 3 times in a row, so claiming the trophy outright for Britain. These planes were the creation of their chief designer, Reginald Mitchell, who now turned his attention to fighters.
He set about things in a completely different way from Cam. He decided that rather than developing an aircraft that was already in existence, he had to take a clean sheet and design something from scratch, which was quite unlike anything that had gone before. And the result was probably the most famous aircraft in British history.
The Spitfire arrived in the nick of time, mesmerising everyone who laid eyes on it. In 1942, a film was released making Mitchell nearly as famous as his plane.
See how they wheel and bank and glide? And all in one. Wings, body, tail, all in one. But you wait. Someday, I'm going to build a plane just like a bird.
Why, it is like a bird. What a strange-looking machine.
The Spitfire is remarkable in its combination of speed and manoeuvrability. It was all metal, low wing, a monocoque design, which meant that it was the structure itself that gave the aircraft strength. It was made as small as possible and was designed for speed above all else. His masterpiece was the wing, and the wing of this machine was based on an elliptical shape, which was known at the time to be the one shape which produced the lowest induced drag of any other wing shape at subsonic speeds.
The Spitfire first flew in 1936, but its designer never saw the true impact of his creation. Mitchell was battling cancer, but refused to let this interfere with his work. This dedication took its toll, and in June 1937, he died, aged 42. However, he did live long enough to see the government order 300 Spitfires. His work hadn't been in vain.
Congratulations, Mrs. Mitchell. Will you thank your husband and tell him that he's given England something that she badly needs?
The name was very nearly Shrew. The name was changed from Supermarine Shrew to Supermarine Spitfire. And the person responsible for that was the head of Vickers at the time, a man called Maclean, who said that his daughter Anne was a little Spitfire, and it was decided to name this aircraft after her. A rather bad-tempered woman, although in the opinion of the pilots she's always been a real lady. Mitchell had only one comment: that's just the sort of bloody silly name they would give it, isn't it?
At Headcorn, the boys are getting one last chance to impress Brendan on the Tiger Moth. After 3 days of trials in the Tiger Moth, Brendan has the task of deciding which of our 4 young pilots will be going on to fly Mitchell's revolutionary creation.
After 3 days of really hard flying, it's decision time to decide who is going to go forward to fly the Spitfire. There was clearly at the end, although for the first couple of days it was frankly anybody's, but there was one who was clearly ahead, and that was John. And the reason for that, it did show through, was his professional Air Force training and a great deal of aptitude as well. Ben flew extremely well. Again, with an Air Force training, very competent, a very nice pair of hands, as we say in the business, and I would certainly want him as one of my wingmen. Christian, a great character and sport, full of enthusiasm, and I think considering he was the one with the least number of hours, he did extremely well. Dave, who hasn't actually been doing a lot of regular flying lately, I have to say was the one that improved the most in the shortest period of time. Gentlemen, the moment of truth. Two going forward for the Spitfire flying are John and Dave. Well done, both of you.
Thank you very much.
John, your professional training as an Air Force pilot obviously showed through, as well as a great deal of aptitude. Dave, you actually made the greatest over the period of time. A great job, well done. Thank you all very much, and well done.
I don't have a chance to do that kind of stuff, and congratulations.
Cheers, mate.
This is Officers' Mess, Drem, East Lothian, 21st of June, 1940. Dear Mum and Dad, it's rather nice to belong to a Spitfire squadron because they are fairly few and far between, and the Spitfire is still the fastest single-engine fighter, I believe. I've still to make my maiden voyage, but hope to do that tomorrow. Up to now, I've flown a Tiger Moth and a Magister around the countryside just to get an idea of the lie of the land. More soon. Love as always, Nigel.
For John Sweet and Dave Mallon, it's time to move to Duxford, one of the key Battle of Britain airfields. Today, it's home to the Imperial War Museum's collection of historic aircraft, as well as Carolyn Grace's two-seater Spitfire. As war broke out in 1939, it was clear Mitchell's work hadn't come a day too soon. The salad days of pre-war flying were over. Things were about to get serious.
This week, having flown the Tiger Moth last week, you're going to learn to fly a Spitfire. By Wednesday, we will have assessed both of your abilities as fighter pilots. We will choose one of you who will then go on to do a full 9 hours in the Spitfire of combat training, and at the end of that you will have about the same amount of hours that a number of the Battle of Britain pilots had when they indeed went to combat.
We flew Spitfires straight from biplanes. None of us had ever flown low-wing monoplanes before, and suddenly we were faced with these fearsome aeroplanes called Spitfires. And all the training you had was to sit in the hangar with the blindfold round your eyes and the Spitfires on trestles, and you felt around the cockpit trying to identify all the tits and bits, pulling the wheels up and put the flaps down, etc., etc., for half a day, and introduced your aeroplane and to get on with it.
Gives you goosebumps all over, doesn't it?
Yes,
it does me. Quite literally.
I can remember this line-up of Spitfires and thinking, my goodness, that's going to be something.
We walked over to this thing, we looked at it, we stroked it. I fell in love with it. We just had one Spitfire, but then a couple of days later, 15 more turned up, and we were a fighter squadron.
Same compass, though. No, it's split flap underneath the wing.
Underneath the wing, okay.
It's very business-like on the inside. There's not many frills around, not many cushions in the seat either.
It was the latest and fastest thing, and a little bit daunting when somebody said, there's one, you know, go and have a go at it, see how you get on.
It's completely different to a Cessna 150. It's a different ball game altogether. It's a fighter.
There were no pilot's notes in those days. All we were given was a quarto sheet of paper with the climbing speed, stalling speed, cruising speed and cruising revs. That was about it.
To step from a Tiger Moth and step into a Spitfire is huge step. And these people that had to do it in 1940, it's pretty special, big step.
Somebody took you out and showed you, the stick and things like that.
This is the propeller, the RPM.
Our introduction was to a test pilot who just said, well, this is the petrol system.
That's the engine instruments, there's your flying, but it's easy, no trouble at all, that's it.
You had things that went up and down and roundabout, undercarriages that went up, flaps that came down, and all this kind of thing. We're completely unused to them.
Excuse me, would you tell me how to start the thing, You press that button.
And the very best of luck.
The whole plane as a whole is awe-inspiring. I think when you look inside the cockpit, though, it makes you feel maybe nervous, I suppose. It's reality is I'm going to be flying this thing in a short while, so a little nervous, if anything, really. It should be fun. Very, 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 very excited.
One thing's very striking in reading the accounts of pilots' first meetings with this aircraft is that they always use the same analogy. This aircraft, which after